So now we are going to see how do you create a React project. Now in earlier versions of React, we used to install the create React app. It is still there, but now we don't install it directly, right? We do install Node.js, and then what you have to do to create the React application is like this. You just write npx, then you say create dash react dash app, and then you are going to give the project name. Let's say the project name is first, right? And you press enter. This will take real good time, in fact. This I have opened the terminal, and that's where I have typed this command. To open the terminal, you can press Ctrl and the tilde sign, or you can say Ctrl Shift and backtick, right? That's the shortcut. Or you click here, then there will be a terminal opened here. And this is where you are going to type the command. You can go on the prompt and type the command. That's also fine, right? But terminal is a better way. Now once you see that there are a lot of files getting installed. Once you have this message called happy hacking, right, that we will see in a moment. You see this happy hacking, that means our project is created. Now see this. Let's try this now. See, you can directly open the folder from this place. I can say open folder. Let's say the application was first, right? So I'll just select the folder, and that application is opened here. You see this first, that's the application. Let me show you how to run. You can say npm start, or you can also use yarn, which is a package which we will see in detail at a later stage. But yarn and start, if you do this, let's do this. Now you see that it says localhost 3001. So there is a development server running, and here is your React application. You did not write a single line of code, and you see this output. Now whatever changes you want to make, you can make in these files. These are the files which React, that is the create React app, created for you. So it's a kind of scaffolding, that's what we call it, or we call it as a boilerplate coding. Now you add your own code on this particular structure. So create React app, basically it's a CLI, that is a command line interface, which helps you to create some prerequisite environment for a React project. Not only that, the output which you saw is the very basic thing which it does, and then you can start making changes in it. See, this entire structure you'll get step by step at a later stage. But at the moment, I just want to open this public folder. If I click here on index.html, and if I scroll down, this particular HTML has only one thing. You see this division ID is equal to root. If you compare the code which we had in the code pen, it had the very same thing. In the HTML section, we just had one division, right? So the public folder contains the main HTML file. Now let me just close this folder and open a very important folder called src. Here you have various files. Now let me just click on this index.js. Here you see document.getElementById root, and it has react dom.render command, which we tried in the JavaScript section of our CodePen window, right? So render is only used once. And then we have this app.js, which has all the coding which you see on the page. This is where we are going to implement the component. So imagine that we want to try the same component here. Without trying major things, we want to create a component, right? We will see the detailed structure and lot of other intricacies at a later stage. But let's say the CodePen code which we had, that we want to implement here. So what I'll do, first of all, let me just remove everything we have in the app.js. App.js is the file where you have everything written, right? So I'll just remove everything from app.js. There is one division which I'm writing. You see there is a return statement, there is a open and closing bracket, the JSX you are going to write here. JSX is basically nothing but the HTML you write inside the JavaScript section, right? Generally, you write HTML inside .html file, but you see the HTML you have here inside the .js file. Now, this is allowed because there are a lot of transpilers working behind the scene, and we will see as we go on, and you will understand also easily. It's not a big deal. Now, here we want to try the same thing. We want to create that product detail. Let me just copy straight away that thing. I'll go to the CodePen window. This React DOM.render we do not need to write because it's already there in index.js, right? We want to create a component. So I will copy this component, personal info component. I'll copy this, right? And what I will do, I will create a file called personalinfo.js. Generally, what we do, we create a components folder. That's how we do it. So I'll create components folder, right? We will again discuss this structure and everything as we go on. So don't worry about it. It's just that we are trying few things quickly. And inside this components, I can have another folder and then I have the JS file. But right now I'm taking the JS file straight away. So I'll say personalinfo.js. That's the component I have. And here I'm going to write it. Now, because this is React application, you will have to import the React library. So I'm going to say import React from React. We do not need to write anything else. Now, why do you need this React? Because there is some JSX, right? So it needs this React library. Because this is a component, you have to export the component. So you can say export default and the component name is personal information. Why default, why export? You will get anyway in JavaScript we have already seen, but still you will get it as we go on with more clarity. So this component is ready now. The only thing you have to do is you go to this app.js, you have to make that component available here, right? So for that, what you will do, you will simply say import the component is personal info from, what's the path? The path is, let's say in the current folder we have something called components that has personal info. So now the component is imported here, right? Let me go back to the CodePen coding, right? This is what we want to do, this section. So I'm going to paste that section here, right? So you arrange this properly. I'm just going to save this, nothing else. And let's check the output. You have the data here, right? But it is not formatted because CSS is not included. You can either create a new CSS file or it already has a CSS file, app.css. What I can do, I can go to this and copy this class and open the app.css and let me paste at the bottom and I just save this. Once I save, I do not need to refresh the page, right? There is a feature called hot reloading which does the job. Now you see this entire component is implemented with proper React application as well. Now let's talk about few basic relative questions. The first question is, how do you create a React application or React project? So as we have seen that in early days, we used to download create React app and then we used to install. So first of all, we used to write npm install create React app and then we used to create the project with this package itself. We used to write create React app and for example the project is project. So this used to create the project, but nowadays we don't do that. How do we write it? We just say npx, then we write the create React app. That means you don't need to install it. You don't need to install the create React app in your system, and just you give the project name here and this is going to create the React project for you. The second question is, where does the index.html reside in the default React project? So as we have seen here in the project structure, that we have the public folder, and inside this public folder we have the index.html, and that's actually the entry point for the project which you see by default. The third question is, explain the default project structure created by Create React App. So basically the boilerplate, the scaffolding created by the Create React App looks something like this, where we have the public folder in which we have index.html, that's the entry point. Then we have this index.js, and this index.js has the render of the app. Then we have the src folder in which certainly app.js and app.css. This is the main app component which is getting rendered inside the index.js. And further, if you want more components, you create the folder in this src folder only, which we will see as we proceed further.